Hey friends, it's John. You're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. It was over a year ago. I showed you how to tie the Maverick Hitch and we added it to our toolbox. You're going to need to review the content on introducing the Maverick Hitch and tying the Maverick Hitch in order to understand what we're doing today here in this video. I'll be showing you a new variant. I'm calling it the Super Maverick, but I want you to have the background. This is the Maverick Hitch. The first phenomena that we've noticed when tying it is that when we advance it up the tree, sometimes with the Maverick pole, and we get it up into a position where we want to set it, we set it on the tree, and we get up there and climb, sometimes the Maverick Hitch can kind of get rolled over. So this rollover phenomena basically causes the release loop and the locking line to kind of get jammed, and so it's difficult to get this out. We have to put weight on our feet, and so we don't need a new knot to solve this. We can simply reroute the loop a different direction. We can send it up. Instead of what I call a front flip going up and over the back, we can route it around the back. We'll call that a back flip, and it really doesn't matter if it's got some twists in it, but that is more reliable in terms of rollover prevention. And so we're going to add that to our toolbox. The second issue is that there have been a couple of reports of a Maverick Hitch getting morphed. And by morphed, I mean that it changes shape and is difficult to release. Now I can simulate that here with this very small diameter cord. If I tie a Maverick Hitch with this cord and subject it to a strong and horizontal load. Now I'm not going to tighten it real tight, and I'm not going to make the load vertical. I'm going to pull away from the tree. So it's kind of loose. So I'm going to pull on this, pull on this, and pull on this. And what's happening is it begins to morph, and it makes this release loop basically get folded over. The nose of the Maverick disappears, and now releasing it requires more effort, and it can be impossible to release. Now, what I've determined is that the Super Maverick Hitch is less prone to that. So let's tie this Super Maverick variant. Okay, when we tie the Maverick Hitch, and I'm working with the right side as the working end, the first move is an overhand turn. So there's a half twist in this rope. If it was set like this, well, that would be a running highwayman's hitch. This would be a running highwayman's hitch. The only difference between a running highwayman's and a Maverick is that we've got this overhand twist to start the hitch. Well, if we continue to put additional overhand twists in the rope, so instead of one half twist, 2 half twists, it's going to be more secure. 3 half twists, it'll be more secure. I wasn't sure where to stop. We're going to stop it at 3, right there. And I'll then go through the rest of the exercise of tying the Maverick. With this line goes around the back. Everything's identical, right? You need to know how to tie your Maverick. And then through. Okay? We tug on it here. We kind of give this a pull to get things nice and snug. And now I have the option of routing this loop either with the front flip or with the back flip. I'll route it with the front flip and allow you to inspect this. If you were to compare this to the regular Maverick, it's really difficult to see a difference. This is what I call the nose, and this is the release strand on the right side as I tied it. This looks identical from the front. The only difference that's noticeable is when we look at it from the side. Here there are 2 vertical bars, and there would only be 1 on a standard Maverick. Now when we route this loop for a backflip, it gets difficult, if not impossible, to inspect because the knot turns. That the nose turns towards the tree. And so it's much more difficult to inspect. Lastly, whenever we're using the Maverick for a life safety application, we've always got to make sure, whether it's the Maverick or the Super Maverick, we've got to make sure that this bite is locked from unintentional release. I'll typically have a long working end when I'm advancing it with a pole, and I'll lock it that way. But if we're working near the center of the rope, we might lock this with a carabiner. The carabiner can go here, but I prefer to wrap it around the line that way. Now I'm going to tie it again, and then we're going to take you outside for a test. But the other problem or opportunity that we have is when we use the Maverick Hitch as a running canopy anchor. It just doesn't run back very well. But the Super Maverick is better performing. So let me tie it here as it's going up and over a tree crotch. I'm going to tie it kind of loose because I need a little room inside of it. So 1, 2, 3 half twists around the back and through. And what I'll do is I'll take my left thumb and I'll put it inside here on the running part before I tighten it. And I'll put this up and through and then lock it. But I've got my thumb in there, so this loose contraption starts to get tight with my thumb in place. Provides some room. You can see the size of that aperture, and that holds its shape. I can run that up into the tree and create a canopy anchor. I can climb and work on that, and with pretty good reliability, when I go to retrieve it, this loop hasn't collapsed. And I can simply break the hitch. Now, as I alluded to, there's nothing to stop us from using more wraps. I'm calling the Super Maverick the one with 3 twists, but if I wanted to take, there's 1, 2, 3. If I want to keep going, 4, 5. If you wanted to tie that and you wanted to use that, well, and you needed a name for it, well, I guess I'd call that a Super Maverick with 5 half twists. It's going to be a little bit more work to set. But it's going to hold. In fact, it'll be stronger. All right, let me take you outside and we'll do a test. Okay, so let's do a test. On this tree, I've got a brand new piece, and thanks to our friends at Ape Canyon for the supplies, but I got a brand new piece of 8mm sterling oplux tied with a Super Maverick. That goes into my winch, that goes into my scale, that goes into the other tree with another identical hitch, but this one tied with 8mm Teufelberger Resctech. Let's give you a closer look at this setup. Okay, so here's the end with the scale. That's a Super Maverick, and I don't have anything, I don't have an under or an over. It's just completely, the release loop is just flopping around. That's a JRB hitch on the carabiner. Here's my scale, and to make sure I don't damage it, if you could see that setting, I just did a little test pull. It's currently at 0 kilonewtons, but I pulled 0.24, and on my phone, syncing with Bluetooth, it knows that I pulled 0.24. And so if I pull a little bit more on this, see now my peak is 0.52. Okay, so we're gonna protect our scale and lock that up. Make sure it doesn't get damaged. You've seen me do that before. And then here's my winch, looking back the other way. And here's the other tree. And that is an identical Super Maverick, but this one tied with oplux. Let's get pulling. Okay, I've got my gloves. I've got my safety goggles. What could go wrong? Obviously, this is a take one situation. I don't know if I'll be able to get these off. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. Let's get cranking. Everything's got to tighten up. So I'm reading my scale. So we're now at 1 kilonewton exactly, peak force. Peak force is a 1.3, 1.4, 1.6. Now I got to pay attention here. I got to keep my eye on these guys. My phone will remember the peak force. I just got to keep my eye on the hitches for any kind of morphing. So I hit 2.75. I felt a little give there. I had 2.92. I think what I'm going to do right now to make the most out of this is I'm going to relieve the tension and see how hard it is to unlock those. Okay, got basically no tension here. Let's see if I can release this. No problem. Let's try the other one. No problem. All right, let me tie them up again and we'll crank it a little higher. Okay, I'll reset my peak value to 0. Retied my hitches. You know, they give a little bit as they're getting closer to the tree. My peak value right now is 3.26 kilonewtons. That's basically the weight of 3 average climbers. My peak is 3.77. And now it's 4.13 peak. I'm good there. I mean, they haven't morphed, and I don't really need to break them. Let's see if we can go to 5 and not 4.72, 4.99, 5.28 peak. Let me give you a look at that. Let's get a closer look at the hitch, right? So that hasn't morphed. Can you see that peak value? Peak value is 5.28. And here's the other hitch. It hasn't morphed. I'm going to relieve the tension and take these off. Okay, after 5 kilonewton load, no problem to remove that one. And no problem to remove that one. I don't know exactly how far we can go to take these, you know, to their breaking point, but we're not using these for rigging. We're not trying to break them. We just want an anchor that we can consistently release after we've unloaded it. But Mom, I don't want to go home yet. We're having too much fun. Hey, look what I did. I retied it. So now I just got a regular Maverick, right? So my test is complete and successful. If this thing jams up and I have to cut it off the tree, then so be it. I got the free rope. Thanks, guys, at 8 Canyon. But I've got a Maverick here. Got the scale back where it was. Got the winch back where it was. I got the peak value reset. It's reading 0.03. And there's another Maverick. Let's pull this and let's see where this morphs. We got 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. All right, I'm just going to watch my Mavericks to see when they go. But 2.27. See, this morphing does require that. Just moved closer to the tree. It's getting close. I can see the one on my right getting ready to go. And that one's moving a little too. And so we're at 3.5 peak. Now that one's half gone. I think I would have a hard time removing that. And I'm not going to, I'm at 4.12 peak. $4.56. I'm not going past 5. I'm at 4.92, 5.08, and this one's starting to morph. Let's give you a look at that. you see the nose of the Maverick is right there, and it's starting to disappear into the hitch. Now, I can't tell you why some folks had a morphing issue. I don't know what kind of tension or what kind of cyclic loading, but all I know is that, this will probably be a little bit tough to remove, but that's a hell of a load. Look, it's completely bitten into the tree. That would take some work. And on this side, my guess is this one's still fine to remove. Okay, I'll get you back on the tripod and we'll see what I can do. Okay, so this one here, I think I'm going to be able to release. Yep, no problem. No problem. But this one was starting to morph. So I'm expecting this to be more difficult. But look, I can still release it. You've heard me say before that when someone says, well, I've never had a problem with it. Well, that doesn't matter. If you can have a problem with it, that's what matters. And so all we're doing here is we're taking the Maverick to the next level and providing even more strength and more stability under load. But if you prefer to use the regular Maverick and you haven't had any morphing issues with it, stiffer rope is going to work better. Then I have no objections to that. Okay, one more time. The Maverick hitch you should be familiar with. The Maverick hitch, I'm not taking that out of your toolbox. The Maverick hitch remains in our toolbox as a viable anchor. But we've got new options for where to route this strand. We can do the front flip or the back flip. And the back flip, always lock it. Always lock. Just a little bit more friendly to avoid rollover. But the Super Maverick that I'm showing you today works in that manner and as a better canopy anchor and as a more morph resistant version of the hitch. So let me tie that. Again, you're going to want a healthy working end. I use a rule from my nose to my toes when I'm standing at a tree, about 5 feet of working end. And I simply make 1 half twist, 2 half twists, 3 half twists, and then the rest of the protocol is the same. I go around the back and over, and up across the front and through. The working release end is up on the top. I then tighten it by pulling this towards me, give a little tug here, let it kind of get set, and then decide whether I'm going to use a front flip or a back flip. So here's a front flip, lock it, cinch it on the tree. That's the Super Maverick. I'll do a detailed knot tying video, but for the knot nerds out there who wanted to see the background, who wanted to see the exploration, who wanted to see the testing, that's what this was for. Thank you very much.